Welcome seventh graders to the Dallas Independent School District STEM Environmental Education Center. And we'd like to give a special welcome to the students at Halsey STEAM Academy. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We wish you could be here in person, but since you can't be, we're going to do our best to make you feel like you're here during a virtual field trip this afternoon. If you are watching this and have not registered for this field trip yet, you can still do that by going to www.tiny.cc/6-8 registration to get yourself or your class registered for this field trip. We just use that information for our attendance purposes. And this afternoon's program is entitled Body Systems. During this virtual field trip, students will identify the main functions of the systems of the human organism. So we're going to start things off today by exploring the circulatory and respiratory systems with Mr. Monroe. Next, we're going to explore the skeletal and muscular systems with Ms. Schramm. Third, we will explore the digestive system with Mr. Dominguez. And last but not least, we're going to explore the excretory system with Ms. Ramirez. While we're doing all of that, we do encourage you to ask questions. Since this is a virtual field trip, you need to go to www.tiny.cc/question-answer to ask us a question. You'll fill out a super short form, click submit, and then we'll be able to answer any questions you have related to body systems. You can ask as many questions as you like, and we'll do our best to answer all of them in the time that we have with you this afternoon. So let me stop sharing my screen here and turn things over to Mr. Monroe, who's going to get us started with the circulatory and respiratory system.
Good afternoon, students. My name is Mr. Monroe, and we're going to be looking into the circulatory system and the respiratory system in human bodies. At the end of my short presentation, I am hoping that you all will remember the major organs that make up these two systems and how important they are. Not only are they important that you know about them because of some tests you may take later on, but it's actually all about life. Do you know about these systems and the organs that make up this system, these systems? Maybe, just maybe, it'll help you take care of yourself health-wise a little better, because my knowledge about these organs that I'm discussing and showing you about today, guess what? It has helped me thrive and live, hopefully continue to live a very healthy life. Now, the circulatory system, in fact, let me just use just a little short presentation. It won't last very long, and then we're going to get into the details. Let me share my screen with you a little bit. It'll take a while to load. Introduction to body systems. Now, just a little bit of review. You know that the basic unit of life are cells, right? And the same type of cells are going to make up the same type of tissue. And the same type of tissue is going to make up the same type of organs. And the organs are going to be found in an organ system that's going to be doing a very special job. The circulatory system, its purpose, its role is to transport substances throughout the body. And you might say it's almost like the pipeline of the body. Now, it's going to circulate oxygen, CO2, heat, water, nutrients, and also waste. Major organs that make up the circulatory system are the heart, the arteries, and the veins. And we'll discuss a little more in detail about that. Now, the other system that we're going to be looking into is the respiratory system. And the respiratory system is the ventilation system of the body. The major organs that make up that system are the lungs, the diaphragm, the trachea, and I'm going to be mentioning a few more as we go through the rest of this presentation. And their job is it takes in oxygen and releases carbon dioxide from the blood. So its primary job is actually some type of gas exchange. Now I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we're really going to get into it. Okay, so let's look at the circulatory system. You know, humans, that heart is a what we call a cardiac muscle. Now, there are three types of vessels that heart is going to be working with. Arteries, which carries blood away from the heart. And then we have the veins that are found in our body that actually carry blood to the heart. And then we have capillaries that actually connect arteries to the veins. Now, if there's a malfunction in any of those parts, then that system is at jeopardy. If that system goes at jeopardy, do you think it affects other systems? Sure. Now, I will tell you this, humans, mammals, most large mammals, have what we call a four-chambered heart. Two of the chambers are actually referred to as atria, and then two of the chambers are actually called ventricles. Now, the atria is actually a collection chamber. It receives blood, so blood would be coming into the heart. Now, the ventricles, they have a little thicker wall because they are the muscular part of the heart. They do the pumping because that heart muscle, all it is a pump. And they're going to be pumping blood out. Now, you know, the really funny thing about it is that we have living things all around us, students. And it's amazing. You know, humans and larger mammals have a four-chambered heart. What that indicates, there's kind of like an advantage because they have a higher level of energy, so their higher ever level of energy needs is larger than other organisms. And then their body size could be quite larger than other organisms that may have a different chambered heart. And then most organisms that have four-chambered hearts are warm-blooded. Now, we know that for a fact because if you look at fish, fish are cold-blooded. Fish have a two-chambered heart. Amphibians, cold-blooded. They have a three-chambered heart. Reptiles, cold-blooded. They have a three-chambered heart also. Now, I've got a couple of little friends I'm going to show you. Hoppy Sr. is a bullfrog, so he is categorized or he's classified as an amphibian. So he is one organism that has a three-chambered heart. Now, he's a very large bullfrog, and of course, he is an amphibian, and right now he's pretty cold. He is ectothermic, meaning he's cold-blooded. Hoppy has a three-chambered heart. So because he has a three-chambered heart, it kind of changes his respiratory system, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. His heart does not allow for him to get the gas exchange like we would have. We use our lungs, and we'll get into that detail a little later. But this guy, his gas exchange not only happens in his lungs, but his skin also is an area that is going to have a gas exchange. If that skin should dry out, then he's in bad shape, okay? How many chambered heart did I say he had? 3. How many chambered heart did I say that humans have? 4. So there is a big difference, okay? Now, let's talk about the respiratory system. Now, the respiratory system, you heard about the major parts or major organs that make it up. And this is where the gas exchange happens with the environment. Bronchi are two breathing tubes that branch out from the trachea, which is found in our throat, and lead to the lungs, okay? Bronchial tubes are large breathing tubes that branch out from the bronchi. The alveoli are sacs that are located in the lungs where gas exchange takes place. Now, our ribs and our diaphragm help us to breathe well, okay? So, the same body parts, the same organs for the respiratory system, which of course would be found in hoppy. But what about fish? What about the fish? Do they breathe or take in and do a gas exchange like we do? I don't believe so, because they actually use gills. And I've got a little friend that I want to show you. Where the gills are located in his body. This is a largemouth bass, and right under that platelet, there are filaments that are called gills. And water has to pass through those gills, and the oxygen from the water is extracted and sent into, guess what? The lungs. He does have a set of lungs. So there is a bit of difference between us and other living organisms, but that gas exchange that goes on with the respiratory system has to happen. Just like the circulatory system, it has to do its function. Now, later on, as I get ready to pass it on to Mr. Broughton for questions, you guys are going to learn about other systems that are found in our bodies that help the whole organ system, help the organism to stay alive. You guys have a good day. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Mr. Monroe. We've got a number of questions. Kayon Williams asked, what is the diaphragm? That is a muscle in your body that helps you breathe. So I would, even though it's part of the muscular system, it affects your respiratory system. And then there's a lot of questions about the brain, which we did not cover. We didn't have enough time to cover all the body systems today because the brain is part of the nervous system. But one question that I thought was good from Amy Hernandez, what would happen if instead of a brain, we had a nucleus? And it would not work for us to only have a nucleus in our skull instead of a whole brain. But the nucleus is like the brain of a cell. So it's a good connection that you made there with the brain and the nucleus. All right, now we're going to move on to the skeletal system and muscular system with Ms. Schramm.
Hey everybody, it's Miss Schramm. All right, let me get my screen going. And I am focusing on the musculoskeletal, that's hard to say, musculoskeletal system. And as you may have guessed, that contains two systems in one. So by the end of my little section, you'll be able to identify the main functions of the skeletal and muscular systems. So I found this little graphic to show you kind of the difference between the skeletal and the muscular, dear goodness, and how they kind of work together. So obviously the skeletal is on the left and the muscular is on the right. But in between is more the interesting one where you can kind of see how they overlap because these two systems really rely on each other and to help perform their functions, right? So let's kind of compare and contrast them and then we'll get a little deeper into it. So both muscular and skeletal systems, I'm getting better, both of them help maintain the body structure and they give us strength and stability. So the muscular system is made up of muscles, tissues, and tendons. There are 630 active muscles, and your muscles make up about 40 to 50% of your body weight. So most of your body is pretty much muscle. All right, then on the right, we've got the skeletal system is made of bones and cartilage. Adults have 206 bones, and it's about 15% of your body weight. All right, so let's see. Here is the little video I made a little bit ago, and I recorded it just so I wouldn't mix up all the bones names. Okay, so let's watch this, and then we'll move on. Hey everybody, it's Miss Schramm here, and I'm with Mr. Bones at the Environmental Center. And today we're going to talk about the skeletal system. So our bones are made up of calcium, minerals, and collagen. That's what gives us flexibility and strength. Our bones also provide us with our shape. Otherwise, we'd be like big blobs of jelly. So let's learn about some of the bones that keep us together. So if you look at Mr. Bones' skull, up top we have the cranium. The cranium is what protects our brains. So obviously that is quite important. And then we have our jaw that allows us to chew. Then we have our spinal cord. So our spinal column starts at the base of the cranium and goes all the way down to our tailbones. And you can feel, if you feel your back right now in your seats, you can feel your vertebrae. The vertebrae are these smaller bones that stack up to make up your spinal column. So you can see all these little vertebrae and you can feel them in your back. In between those vertebrae, it kind of looks like a little squishy substance right here. That is cartilage. If you feel your ears are also made out of cartilage. So you can tell that's a little more flexible. That's what allows us to bend and move our backs, right? So that is very important. Then up top again, we've got the collarbone, also that is called the clavicle. So we call it collarbone, it is called a clavicle. And we have one here and here. And those are actually the only bones that lay horizontal in your body. Then we have the sternum. The sternum is shaped like a necktie, which is fitting because that's where your necktie goes. So we have the sternum, and that has a very important job because it holds together these guys, the ribs. The rib cage is formed around all of your vital organs, your heart, your lungs, everything you hold dear inside your body is protected by this rib cage. All right, then moving down, we got our hips. That is the pelvic bone. All right, that allows us to move, to dance. It holds our legs in place, right? So then let's talk about the arms. We've got the humerus, and we've got what holds our arm to our body is back here, the shoulder blade or the scapula. Then, like I said, humerus, then we have, let's see, make sure he's pointing the right way. So Mr. Bones, thumb pointing up. Then we have the radius and the ulna. All right, then moving back down, we've got the femur, which is like your thigh. Then the patella, which is the kneecap. And then we have the tibia and the fibia going all the way down to your feet. Hey, everybody. Okay, now where did I go? Oh, there I am. Okay. All right, thank you for bearing with me. All right, now let's talk the muscles. So, present. Okay, perfect. So there are 3 different kinds of muscles. So we have on the far left, the skeletal muscle. So that is like probably what you think of most when you think of muscles. Those are what you can feel in your arms, in your cheeks, in your face. All of those muscles, like when you work out and you get sore, those are what muscles you are thinking of. Those are the ones that wrap around your skeleton. They are connected to your bones by tendons, and those are what help us move. Then we have cardiac muscle, and cardiac muscle is only found in the heart, hence the name cardiac. Then we have smooth muscle, and that is a part of your organs, that is a part of your digestive system, your reproductive system, all that good stuff is smooth muscle. So the difference between those is that skeletal muscle is voluntary. You move skeletal muscle when you tell your body to move. So when you want to run, you're using skeletal muscle. Involuntary muscles are the cardiac and the smooth muscle. Your heart is going to beat whether you tell it to or not. Your lungs are going to breathe. Your body's going to digest. You don't have to tell your body what to do, right? So the voluntary is when you're telling your body to move. Involuntary is just natural functions that your body will follow. All right, so next I have a little clip of a kind of like project you can do to create a model of your muscles. I would like to try it in the future, but I did not have all of these items. So let's check out this little clip. And basically what she's done is she's taken 2 little like sticks of wood or paint stirrers, whatever, and she's made a little joint out of a brad or like a little metal brad. And then she has one of those goofy bags that you can find around oranges. But the reason she has that is to kind of show the muscle. So inside she has a plastic bag, or you could also use a balloon to put inside. And when she fills that balloon or plastic bag with air, well, we'll see. So she fills it up with air and her muscle is contracting, right? And it's moving the arm. Then she releases the air and the muscle relaxes and the arm can straighten. So if I stop sharing that, okay. So I want you to hold your arm and I want you to move your arm up. You can feel your muscle contract here and it gets all balled up, right? It starts to feel different. Then you relax it, it feels squishy and flat. Pull it up, it gets all balled up and contracted, and it wiggles flat. So once again, those are your voluntary muscles. And that is all I have for you today. I'm going to send you back to Mr. Broughton for questions and enjoy the rest of your field trip.
Thank you, Ms. Schramm. Still more questions about the brain. There's one question. Ali asks, how does the brain work? And Ilana asked, how does your brain control your body? So your brain is, again, part of the nervous system, and it has neurons, which are specialized cells that go to all over your body, so that if you want to move your arms or legs, your brain tells your body to do that and moves those voluntary muscles that Ms. Schramm just described to us. Or your eyes take in light. They're a specialized light sensing organ in your body, and that sends a message through neurons to your brain to interpret what you just saw. Or if you taste something, your tongue is covered in taste buds, and that'll send a message to your brain to tell you what you just tasted. Or if you touch something and it's hot, the neurons will travel from your fingers to your brain to say, oh, stop touching that because it's hot. So your brain can control all the parts of your body basically through neurons. Now let's move on to our next body system, which is the digestive system with Mr. Dominguez.
Hey guys, it's Mr. Dominguez at the EEC, and I'm currently outside on this beautiful fall day with one of our redfoot tortoises. In this portion of your virtual field trip, we will be talking about the digestive system, the organs that comprise the digestive system, and of course the purpose of the digestive system. I think Teddy's a little upset because he just dropped his papaya, which is one of his favorite foods, along with turnip greens and calabaza. And before he dropped the papaya, Redfoot was actually showing you guys the first step in digestion, which is, of course, eating and chewing. So let's get back inside and let's get this presentation started. Are you upset? I think he's upset. Don't worry, I'll pick up your papaya.
All right, guys, let's talk about why animals eat and why they need a digestive system. Animals eat because they require energy. That energy is going to power all of the bodily functions that they will ever undertake in their lifetime. The energy that we use today, tomorrow, in the future, is derived from the food that we eat. However, that food is not instantaneously made available as energy. It needs to go through the process of digestion. And every organ in the digestive system helps with that breakdown that needs to happen before we can use food as energy. So let's think about the cereal or whatever other breakfast food that we had this morning. I love cereal and I know that it's going to power my morning, but I know that it's not an instantaneous process. I know that it's going to have to be digested first and be broken down into simple sugars that my body will later use as it needs to power my day.
All right, guys, let's talk about the organs that make up your digestive system. But before we do, I think it's worth mentioning that all of the body systems that you guys are learning about today are working together. They do not work independently. They rely on each other to perform their individual functions. So keep that in mind. Another thing that I had to mention was that in this three-dimensional model, the mouth is missing. And that's important because that's where the initial breakdown of food occurs. And I also want you guys to think of what happens when you are enjoying your favorite food, or you smell delicious food, or you're about to eat one of your favorite home cooked meals. Your mouth starts to salivate. And that salivation is also an important part of that initial breakdown of food. So, since it's not here, we will start with the esophagus. But before we start talking about the esophagus, let me isolate the things that we need to talk about. So there we go. That's the esophagus. And the esophagus is located in your throat near your trachea. That's the windpipe. And the esophagus receives food from your mouth when you swallow, and a series of muscular contractions within the esophagus deliver food to your stomach. And the stomach is this bean-shaped organ. It's a hollow organ. You can think of it as a container that holds food while it is being mixed with stomach enzymes. So these enzymes continue the process of breaking down food into a usable form. Cells in the lining of your stomach secrete a strong acid and powerful enzymes that are responsible for the breakdown process. So when the contents of the stomach are processed enough, they're released into the small intestine. So the small intestine is made up of three segments: the duodenum, jejunum, and the ileum. The small intestine is a 22-foot long muscular tube that breaks down food using enzymes released by the pancreas and bile from the liver. So the duodenum is the first segment of the small intestine, and it's largely responsible for the continuous breaking down process. The jejunum and the ileum, which are lower in the intestine, are mainly responsible for the absorption of nutrients into the bloodstream. And none of that would be possible without the pancreas, liver, and gallbladder. I'm not going to go into detail about those organs. Just know that they play important parts in that absorption process. Now, next up, and let me get rid of that. Next up is the large intestine, uh, sometimes referred to as the colon, and it's responsible for processing waste so that emptying the bowels is easy and convenient. Uh, and it's a 6 foot long muscular tube that connects the small intestine to the rectum. So you can think of the large intestine as the waste management center. So any food that is not that was not used throughout the digestion process winds up here. So that waste, of course, will be released as a bowel movement, um, and that's where all of the food that was not used ends up. So anyway, guys, that is about all the time that I have. I hope that you guys learned a little bit more about why animals eat, why they have a digestive system, and have a better sense of the organs that are inside of you that help that digestion process. I will see you guys next time for your next virtual field trip. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Mr. Dominguez. Andrew asked, how come some animals eat toxic food? And they do that because they don't know it's toxic. Sometimes humans eat toxic food too, and you get sick and you learn to stop eating what you ate. And animals are the same way. For example, some birds will eat butterflies that are toxic to them, but then they learn to stop eating those butterflies after they get sick. And one more question was, how many systems does our body have? There are 10 systems altogether. We only covered 6 today, but or we're going to cover 6 by the end. But there's the circulatory, respiratory, skeletal, muscular, digestive, excretory, which we're about to get to, reproductive, integumentary, nervous, and endocrine systems. But right now, we're going to explore the excretory system with Mr. Ramirez.
Hello, my name is Ms. Ramirez, and in this segment, we're going to learn about the excretory system. But before we actually talk about organs that comprise the excretory system, I have an animal guest to show you guys. So I'm going to give you some clues to who this animal is, and I'll let you guys make your guess while I pull him out. This animal has yellow to orange pee. He's from the class Mammalia, and males will typically urinate to mark their territory. And he also is an example of a lagomorph. So a lagomorph is an animal that has two pairs of upper incisors. So using those clues, see if you can guess what animal friend I have, and I'm gonna go pull him out. The biggest clue is it's a lagomorph, if y'all learn what that word is. So this is one of my newest bunnies. This is baby bunny Lucky. And he's going to the vet today to find out if he's a boy or a girl. But as we learned earlier, boy rabbits typically mark with their urine. And since we're learning about the excretory system today, urine is the body's way of getting rid of waste. So this is baby bunny Lucky, not so much a baby bunny anymore, but he's almost 3 months now. So I'm gonna go ahead and put our baby bunny Lucky up and we'll continue on. I'm really hoping baby bunny is not a boy. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a little quick demonstration of the organs within the excretory system. So the excretory system is a little bit different than the other systems in the sense that it contains organs from other body systems. So these organs that I'm going to go over in a few minutes, they all excrete some sort of waste, but they don't necessarily work together in the same ways like you saw in the other body systems. So each excretory organ does its own thing more or less independently of the other organs. And so this system is important because your body has toxic waste in it. So as your cells are performing chemical activities that keep our body alive, in the process, they're also releasing waste products such as carbon dioxide and ammonia. So all of that waste has to get removed from the body. And that is what the purpose is of the excretory system. Now, most of the organs that make up the excretory system are actually also in the urinary system. So we're going to start off with those organs first. So here we have just a little homemade model of the urinary system. So we know that we have 2 kidneys, and you can actually live with just 1 kidney, but we do have 2 kidneys, and notice we have some veins, and we also have some arteries. So unfiltered blood will actually enter through the arteries. So the unfiltered blood with the waste will come in through the artery, and it'll go through the kidneys. The kidneys act like a filter. So I have some coffee filters here. And then in my little example, I have some, we're gonna say that this is unfiltered blood. So I have some blood cells in there and some waste products. Now, if these were real kidneys, the kidneys would be filtering out some of that waste. They're gonna filter out the waste, and then the good stuff, the stuff that the body still needs, will go back through the veins and get reintegrated back into the body. The waste products, on the other hand, the kidneys are gonna take those waste products and it's going to travel through to 2 tubes called the ureters. And there are these tubes right here. Those ureters will then take that waste product to the bladder. The bladder is kind of like the holding pouch for that waste product. And a typical human bladder can hold about 2 cups of urine. So urine is generally what we consider or call the waste products from our body. And then from the bladder, the urine will then travel through the tiny tube called the urethra. And then from the urethra, that is where our urine or pee comes out of, and then it would eventually end up in the toilet. So that's just a quick little model of the way that waste travels from the kidneys all the way out your body. And we'll go into a little more detail about that in just a second. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen with you guys, and we'll get started with our presentation. So hopefully today you'll be able to answer these 2 questions. The first is, what are the 4 functions of the excretory system and what organs are involved? And the second is, what could happen if the excretory system failed? So keep an eye out for those answers. Here I have a quick little video of the excretory system in action. Here's my dog Toby taking a pee. And something interesting is the small dogs have a bladder that's about the size of a lemon, but a large dog like Toby has a bladder the size of a grapefruit. Here's some of our cattle. Cattle can produce between 3.5 to 8 gallons of urine daily. That's a lot of urine. And they average about 2 liters. So think of a soda bottle, 2 liters of urine per urination event. And then another way of excreting waste is through the large intestine via the rectum. So essentially that's our poop, right? So here in these next few pictures, I have some examples of animal poop here at the Environmental Center. The science word for poop is scat. So you might hear me use those words interchangeably. So take a look at this scat or poop and kind of guess what farm animal do you think left this behind? And we actually have a lot of that around here. And that actually comes from some of our livestock, our poultry birds. And birds don't produce urine, but excrete uric acid. And when you look at bird poop, you might see that white paste. That's the uric acid. And both the uric acid and the actual solid poop comes out of the cloaca, the same hole. And then here we have coyote poop or scat. You can see some of the fur, the undigestible material. And then take a look at this poop. What do you think gave off that poop? Some people call it a patty. It's a cow patty. So cattle produce an average of 65 pounds of feces daily. And as I was videotaping these cattle, as they were walking, they were just dropping that scat all over the place. And then we have one of our cattle chewing cud. They're ruminants. So they have a 4-chambered stomach and have to rechew that food to help break down that cellulose, that plant material essentially. So I'm going to go ahead and stop that there and we'll continue on. Oh, there's Toby again. So some main functions of the excretory system. It maintains balance of salt and water in the blood. Now, some other organs involved with the excretory system would be your skin. And we know the skin is part of your integumentary system. So the skin is super important because when we sweat, the body's actually excreting or getting rid of excess salts through your skin. So think about if you're running outside and you're super sweaty, sometimes you might get some sweat rolling into your eyes and sometimes it burns. That's because of the excess salt that's being released. So your skin is actually part of the excretory system. It is excreting excess salts. Another organ would be your lungs. So the lungs are actually also part of the respiratory system. And those lungs are important because every time you breathe out, you are actually releasing or excreting carbon dioxide. And of course, earlier we went over urine, which is produced through the kidneys. And we know that those are actually part of the urinary system. And those kidneys are removing waste from the blood. So again, the excretory system includes organs from other body systems. And then here's just a quick little infographic. When I was young and even now, my mom still asks me, what color is your urine or how your bowel movements are going? And I always just laugh at her and think she's crazy. But they actually tell you a lot about your health. So you can take a moment to read this on your own. But your goal is to have either transparent or very, very pale yellow urine. That means that you're very hydrated. If your urine is super dark, you're not getting enough fluids. And that fluid intake is very important to help keep your kidneys and your bladder and your body in working condition. And then some problems can arise if you don't take care of your excretory system or even your urinary system. Some common problems would be UTIs, which are urinary tract infections. So if you become too hydrated or you don't drink enough fluids, your body has a hard time of ridding waste and bacteria from your bladder. And that can increase bacteria in your bladder and give you a UTI, an infection, and you need antibiotics for that. Also kidney stones. So kidney stones are actually calcified minerals that form in your kidneys, and it makes it really hard and painful to pass urine through. As you can see here, those stones can get stuck in your ureters, and it obviously is going to block your urine and it's going to make it very hard to pass. Also cysts. Cysts are kind of linked to obesity and genetics. So important to have normal health screenings. Kidney failure can be related to just age, diabetes, and other factors like that. Usually when people go into kidney failure, they have to be hooked up to a dialysis machine, and that machine is doing the function of the kidneys essentially. That machine is actually filtering and cleaning the blood for that person who's on dialysis. And then just a quick little question for you guys. Think about how would your kidneys likely respond if you were to run a marathon? So think about the function of the kidneys and what their goal is in maintaining homeostasis. So back in my glory days when I was in my 20s, I used to be a marathon runner, so I kind of related to that. And you guys know I like songs, so a good song for you guys to review would be from Mr. Parr. He has a great song about the urinary system as well. And then just really quick, some other organs that you guys might be familiar with that are also included in the excretory system would be the liver, which is part of the digestive system. It breaks down toxins, and also the large intestine. You saw our cattle eliminating waste earlier. Within the large intestine, you have the rectum, and that rectum is where solid food waste get excreted from the body. And the reason poop is mostly brown is because of the bilirubin from the liver. And that's all I have time for. We're going to go ahead and give it back to Mr. Broughton to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. Kyan asked, what system is your appendix part of? And the appendix is part of your digestive system. It protects good bacteria in your intestines that your body needs. And then Ileana asked, do animals have the same excretory system as humans? It would not be exactly the same, but some animals have a similar excretory system. And of course, all organisms' excretory system serves to eliminate waste from the body, which you need to do. All right, I'm gonna share my screen here and do a quick recap of what we did today. So again, today's program was body systems. During this virtual field trip, students identified the main functions of the systems of the human organism. So we started off by exploring the circulatory and respiratory systems with Mr. Monroe. Next, we explored the skeletal and muscular systems with Ms. Schramm. Third, we explored the digestive system with Mr. Dominguez, and then we just explored the excretory system with Mr. Ramirez. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We appreciate you taking the time to learn about at least 6 of the body systems with us this afternoon. We hope you enjoyed this virtual field trip, and you can let us know whether you did or not by going to www.tiny.cc/6-8feedback and filling out a short feedback form for us. We hope to see you again in about 3 weeks during our next virtual field trip for 7th graders. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.